Endeavor Houston, are you ready for the event?
And Houston, we are ready for the event.
WXIA-TV, this is Houston. Hello, John. Please call Endeavor and the ISS for a voice check.
Endeavor, ISS, this is WXIA-TV. How do you hear me?
And Endeavor on board the International Space Station has you loud and clear.
Colonel Bowe, Colonel Kimbrough, Captain Bowen, it's great to speak with you. We're in Atlanta, Georgia right now, but Friday night we were at the Kennedy Space Center, and we were able to see that spectacular launch of Endeavor at night. This is your first space flight for each of you. I'll start with you, Colonel Bowe, and I'd like each of you to answer, then Colonel Kimbrough and Captain Bowen. Colonel Bowe, tell us what it's like to be inside that shuttle going from ground to orbit in 9 minutes.
Well, it's truly amazing. It's a real kick in the pants as you're going uphill. You really feel the acceleration, and it's just initially as you're on the solid rocket boosters, you get some shaking, and then once you come off at SRB separation, then you're on the liquids only, and it's a great ride. And hello, Atlanta. There's not much more to add to that. The ride was just amazing. The acceleration, like Colonel Bowe mentioned, was just unbelievable. I had to kind of envision what it might be like, but it was just way more than that. And the power just kept building and building all the way until we hit MECO at about 8.5 minutes. So it was just an amazing ride. I sort of had the in-between view. Eric had the windows, Shane had the lockers, and all I saw was lights and then darkness. It was pretty amazing.
Before I ask you a question about the mission and what's ahead for you, I'd like to know your first impressions of being in orbit, looking out over the Earth and looking out into the stars. Colonel Bowe?
Well, actually one of the coolest things about being up in space is actually just the views and looking out. The view of the Earth and the curvature of the Earth and the colors, for me, what's truly amazing is just how dramatic and bright they are. Really exciting to look at. They almost don't look real when you see them. The stars, you really have to turn down the lights to see the stars, and we haven't done that yet to get a really good look. We've seen the moon, which is obviously looks the same on orbit as it does on the ground, but it's neat seeing that go through the field of view every 90 minutes. I was down on the mid-deck for launch, so my first impressions of orbit and floating around were just with Heidi and Sandy down there, just kind of getting the mid-deck set up, and it was just so cool, just floating around and laughing and just trying to get everything set up. We had a lot of work to do, but it was just obviously in a different environment, so we were trying to figure all that out, or I was anyway, and it was just a great time. And my first impression initially was we had some work to do. But when I finally looked out the window, the word wow was about all I had to think of.
Colonel Bowe, as the pilot, you just maneuvered a successful docking of the Endeavor with the International Space Station. Tell us what was going through your mind as you were maneuvering to make that docking.
Impressive just watching as we got closer and closer and seeing the structure get bigger and bigger. The RPM is really that's the rendezvous pitch maneuver that we do on the RVAR as we're coming up in the underneath it so they can take pictures of us, and it's quite impressive to watch, and it's extremely exciting to see the vehicles as they get closer and closer because the space station is unbelievably huge.
One last question, Colonel Bowe and Colonel Kimbrough. We've talked with some of your family members here in the Atlanta area. Colonel Bowe, we've talked with your father, Jerry, and Colonel Kimbrough, we've talked with your brother, Scott, and they both couldn't be prouder of both of you. What thoughts do you have of your families right now in the Atlanta area and across the country?
Well, we have great great thoughts about our family members. Really appreciate all their support and coming down to launch. They've sent us up emails and given us a lot of support as time gone on. And we really appreciate everyone in Atlanta and throughout the U.S. and around the world that cheering us on with support.
And I'll just add a little bit to that. It's great to hear from our family members, of course, and the launch was just a huge event. It was like a big family reunion for us, and I think most of people that were launching the same deal. So it was really neat to see them all come together, and we obviously appreciate the support we're getting.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, all three of you. Godspeed to all three.
Endeavour ISS, this is Houston ACS.